There's never been a show I've been more happy to see renewed than Abbott Elementary. For those of you that don't know, it's a 2021 mockumentary show about teachers in Philadelphia, and their 5th season comes out this month. So I figured there's never a better time to spend 10 minutes glazing the show in the name of writing analysis. After all, as the title says, it really does reinvent the mockumentary genre. Personally, I never really hopped onto the mockumentary train before Abbott Elementary came out. The Office isn't particularly funny to me. I've seen maybe 2 episodes of Modern Family, and I forgot Parks and Recreation even existed until I wrote the script for this video. However, that being said, the concept of mockumentaries themselves are really interesting to me. Office was the main comedy sitcom to popularize mockumentaries within the comedy sphere. I'm pretty sure that's common knowledge to most people by now, and it was, to me, a very necessary evil for people to move past those very grating and overdone laugh tracks traditional comedy sitcoms have. Not to mention how obvious the jokes are. Even though I personally don't like The Office, its effects on TV comedy are a godsend to me. I specifically like the magnified look at daily life mockumentaries have, and have had since this trend started. Many TV shows and films focus on interesting people with interesting lives, so that audiences will be enticed to stay for the entirety of the story. The down-to-earth quality that mockumentaries have, on the other hand, are a breath of fresh air. Instead of a magazine column writer in New York or police detectives chasing criminals, it's just a guy who works at an office. Or, in Abbott Elementary's case, teachers. Having frankly boring characters as protagonists wouldn't work in any other genre, but it does in comedy because the humor stays grounded and relatable. We don't have to relate the characters back to other archetypes, but instead back to people that we know in real life. Real life is funny and ridiculous enough as it is, and I'm happy that screenwriters recognize that. Quinta Brunson, the creator and star of Abbott Elementary herself, is really good at this. What sets Abbott Elementary apart from the rest of mockumentaries in this genre is just how sincere the writing is. Yeah, The Office is famous for that sarcastic, ironic style of comedy, and the many shows that have been inspired off of it have followed in its footsteps, mockumentary or not. This has actually led into a bad habit of shows shying away from any emotional or heartfelt moment at all. Abbott Elementary careens into them head first. It's genuine, authentic, and the perfect balance of realistic without sacrificing optimism. Either everyone sucks, or in shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the world stays as this fantasy land where everyone's good most of the time. When times get hard in real life, like it did in 2020, this charade was impossible to keep up, and the final season of Brooklyn Nine-Nine shows that. On the other hand, Abbott Elementary will very bluntly tell you that the system, and maybe the world at large, does not care about its teachers or its students, and it holds your hand while it tells you this. Then, in the same breath, it tells you that the best teachers stick through it anyway, and the best communities provide for them when the system doesn't. And even better, there's no stupid sarcasm chaser at the end of these scenes to remind the audience that this is a comedy show. After all, a genre isn't meant to be a box to be trapped in, but a foundation to build a story on top of. Like I said before, another big piece of Abbott Elementary's foundation is in the cast, teachers. Before watching, I didn't really consider the idea of any of my elementary school teachers having personal lives at all. Most people don't, I think. And then you see them at the grocery store with a husband, and it's so awkward because your parents are there, and she says hi, but she's not in her teacher clothes or in a teacher mood, and she's holding hands with some strange man while buying wine. Instead, the show takes that and makes an ensemble cast of normally ignored people, and as a result, we get a genuinely funny TV show. The best part about this show is that it's really approachable, which was an objective Quinta Brunson's had since the beginning, as she's mentioned in interviews. You can't really watch Yellow Jackets or Pretty Little Liars with the family unless you have absolutely no shame, like me, and instead make them watch an entire presentation on the plot of the show, but Abbott Elementary is appealing to anyone. Which, thank God, because it's replaced Big Bang Theory in my house, but the whole mass appeal of the show was one of Quinta Brunson's goals from the start. She mentions in an interview with Donald Glover, among others, that network shows have a lot of untapped potential because everybody watches them, regardless of how artistic or trendy they are. Like I said, it's Yellow Jackets versus Big Bang Theory. However, out of all of the network shows, off the top of my head, I'd say without a doubt that Abbott Elementary has the best writing among all of them. But with so many characters across so many episodes to keep track of, how does Brunson manage to keep it so high quality amongst mostly mediocre TV shows on air nowadays? One of the biggest factors in Abbott Elementary's shining quality is that the show is incredibly character-driven. With long sitcoms like this, the characters carry much of the weight of the audience's interest. Either the plot has to be super action-packed, which is more common in cop or medical shows, not comedy, or be very entertaining. Enticing characters with good chemistry between them is hard enough on its own, but on top of that, Abbott has theirs not only be funny, but very lovable and complex, too. Brunson uses stereotypes and archetypes, like the starry-eyed overachiever of the main character Janine, or the overly woke white liberal of Jacob, or even the Bible thumper old lady like Barbara Howard is. And then she turns them into three-dimensional characters with backstories, interests, and goals. On a more personal note, I really love how realistic the characters are. I don't know if that's because the writers of these types of shows are usually way older than Brunson, or if it's some other reason, but Gen Z characters specifically seem especially hard to get right. More often than not, I feel like I'm watching a caricature rather than a character. If you have any other recommendations for shows or media that captures Gen Z well, please let me know in the comments. I'm probably going to binge through season 5 of Abbott Elementary before this video even comes out, so I'll definitely need more stuff to watch. Another thing that seems so difficult in most cable shows, and many comedy shows in general, are romance subplots. I can't think of a single pair where this happens in a more natural way than Janine and Gregory in Abbott Elementary. They also perfectly manage to avoid crossing that seemingly dangerous thin line between genuine chemistry and borderline sexual harassment in workplace comedies like these. The other relationships across the show are just as fascinating too, and I'm happy that there wasn't any romance tunnel vision that many of my favorite shows have gotten in the past. Cough Cough, Arcane Season 2. Ugh. I could ramble on about the character development in the show too for ages, but I think my absolute favorite thing about the show, and what sets it apart from almost every other mockumentary out there, is that it knows what it's supposed to be and it's not embarrassed about it. Many shows and even movies nowadays have this almost ironic embarrassment in their writing and performance, like insecure teenagers read the script. Like the thing I mentioned earlier about comedy shows avoiding serious emotions. Why do they do that? But not only does Abbott happily seek out the heartfelt authenticity between characters, it stays proud of being a mockumentary too. If you've seen my Fleabag video, you already know how much I love the fourth wall breaks in movies and TV, when they're done well at least. I think Abbott Elementary almost tops that with the school documentary shtick to explain its mockumentary genre. Basically, in the show's universe, the camera's presence are explained because there's a documentary being made about underfunded schools like Abbott in Philadelphia, and they reference back to this throughout the entire show. So, if you've watched all the way through this video and still haven't seen Abbott Elementary, what on earth are you doing? Go watch it. Actually, leave a like on this video first, and maybe subscribe if you'd like to see more breakdowns and analyses of shows I love in this video. Of shows I love, like the one in this video, and then go watch it. Thanks so much for watching the entirety of this video, though. It does a lot for newer channels like mine, and if you need me, I'll probably be watching Season 5 right now. See you in the next video.